Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Stevie.
Hi.
And Steve, we're on. It's been a month. We've been doing this for a little over a month now.
Yeah, this will be episode 6.
Yeah. And how do you think that it's going? I think it's going pretty well. I have fun. That's the main thing. I just care about me having fun.
I tell people this is my new favorite thing. I tell people start a podcast. Do it. Just do it. Everyone who wants to, I say do it.
Yeah.
But I think that because we are doing this, just as two friends, we're not with
insufficient friends.
We're not doing it with a company. We're not getting paid. This is completely for fun. We kind of get to just make up our own rules. Mm-hmm. And it's been, like you said, we've been doing it a month, but it's been kind of a little bit of a journey still of us being like, well, what is the podcast? Is it a comedy? Is it what's our thing? When people always say like, oh, what do you talk about? And I never really have an answer for them.
I just tell them it's not about anything.
Which is, I agree, but I think, so I thought of something for when people start saying, oh, what's your podcast about? I have an answer.
Great, because these like questions, whenever I put it in places, it's like, what do you consider yourself? And where are you supposed to be? And who would like this? And I'm like, well, we're everything. Why do I pick? But I don't want to make people think that we're something that we're not, and they want something that we're not going to give them.
Right.
But
I think I have a good answer that's still broad, but it's not too vague. So act like you are asking me, like, oh, you have a podcast.
What's the podcast about, Steve?
It's a podcast about friendship. Because but think about it. Dude, don't.
Okay.
Why did we start this podcast? Because we're friends and we wanted to continue this relationship somehow after we stopped seeing each other every day. We wanted to have this. And what do we have? Who do we have on? Our other friends.
Yeah.
And we make this for our friends. Yeah. So it's all about friends. And the title, it's in the title, Insufficient Friends. This is a podcast about friendship.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
I like it.
Me too. By friends, for friends.
Okay.
Podcast about friendship.
Okay, there you go, folks. By friends, for friends.
Yay! Do we have an applause sound?
I think so. Hold on. We haven't ever done this, so here it is. Let's see here. By friends, for friends. There we go.
A podcast about friendship.
Yeah. We got a bunch of sound effects on this thing we've never played with.
That's like our new that's our brand. Our podcast about friendship.
Yeah. I agree though. There's like I tell people that we have a podcast, and I've gotten different reactions.
Yeah.
Some people are like, "Oh, that's cool. What is it? What's it called? What's it about? Whatever." Some people kind of give me a look and like, "Okay, like, right. You start a podcast?" And then I've had a few people actually too. You going to the telling everybody to start a podcast is like, I've had a few people tell me like that I've thought about that, and it seems like fun. And I've been like, I've talked to several of them about like, hey, that's awesome. Like, do it. Just do it.
I think my dad and our friend Nikki, the two Insufficient Friends guests we've had, have kind of been in that same boat of like, once they see this, they're like, oh, okay, maybe I could do this. And they like it so much and they experience this, and then they are kind of like motivated to do it. And I say go for it.
Yeah.
I think that when I was like younger and I, as we've kind of touched on before, I had a YouTube channel, and it was
we talked about that with your dad.
My baby. It was my creative outlet, and it was a lot like this. But at the time, not only was I way more insecure, but I didn't want other people doing that. It was just like it wasn't flattering. It was copying, and I was like, I'm the YouTube person or whatever.
Steve is a princess.
There you go. But now I'm like, no, share the love. Everyone should do this because there's so many podcasts in the world who I don't know. I know more people who have said either I want to do a podcast, or I've been on a podcast, I've done a podcast, or I've thought about starting a podcast. I know more people that have said that than not. Like, I just feel like it's very popular right now. And who hasn't thought about that? Who hasn't sat in their car listening to a podcast and thought, I want to do this?
I didn't until you mentioned it.
Okay.
Did never cross my mind.
Well, never mind.
Wasn't ever a thought process until you're like, hey, we should start a podcast. I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do that.
Then I guess you're in the...
I'm in the minority.
Yeah,
but I'm an old person.
Yeah, a lot of people I know are, or even if they didn't necessarily say, I want to start one, they listen to them.
Oh, I'd listen to them.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge podcast listener. I listen to some,
Yeah.
Well, actually, I only really listen to one, but they put out so much content, it's hard to keep up. So, but yeah, yeah. But let's go into more. We talked about it with your dad. Mm-hmm. We need to go into more of this YouTube channel thing that Steve used to have, because I want to hear about this, because I didn't know it existed until your dad mentioned it. And we've been friends for a while, and I'm surprised it never came up.
I am too, actually.
I've seen the Instagram videos that you had at one point, I believe.
The Vine?
Yes, that was what it was, the Vines. Yes, I saw the Vines.
I would recreate Vines for my friends, yeah.
I saw that, but and those are funny.
Thank you.
But I want to know more about the YouTube. Like, what made you start the YouTube thing originally?
Okay. I mean, it's very parallel, honestly, to this experience, at least in terms of like why I did it. And that I just loved YouTube. And I was in 7th grade, it was about to be like summertime. And I want to say it was like 2014. And for me, and I think a lot of kids my age, YouTube was really big at that point. Vlogging was very popular, and there was a lot of like VidCon was very popular.
Okay.
And all these YouTubers would go to these conventions, and it was kind of like the beginning of like the influencer world. I don't know if you know, they're not as popular anymore, but like Jenna Marbles or
I've heard of her,
Shane Dawson, like they kind of
a couple places,
those people, Smosh, Zoella, like a bunch of there's O2L, all these kind of like groups of people, and then some solo people. It was just this community of Tyler Oakley. He was a big one. He's like kind of more in the influencer world now. But anyway, that was my world. And I had a pretty good friend at the time who felt the same. We were obsessed with all these people on YouTube. And it's kind of how I feel about like stand-up comedians now. Like that's my niche little part of the internet that I just was all about. And it was like my whole life. And, so me and my friend, we actually both started our own channels at the same time, and we would just kind of like support each other and shout each other out. And I loved it. I loved filming. I loved editing. I would spend hours editing on like iMovie, and I would make stuff. And I was just making like truly what it was now. I just think it was like a little scrapbook of my life at that time.
Okay.
And I had
kind of like almost like keeping a diary or like a public
diary. A little
bit,
yeah. And I had like topics. Like I'd be like, this video is about my, back to school, because I think like I started it in the summertime kind of, and then like when I was starting 8th grade, I still had it, and it was like back to school topics. And so like I would have some things, and I'd do like a countdown of like the 10 things to know when you're going into 8th grade, like silly little cute stuff like that. But then sometimes I would just have vlogs where I'd go to the lake for a weekend and vlog that with my friends. And then I had like a couple videos, and to this day, this is like the only thing in my life I truly regret. I had 2 videos with my dad. One was him teaching me like slang of like when he was growing up, and then the other one was me teaching him like current day slang and kind of like quizzing each other. And it was so fun, and we had so much fun filming those videos. And I mean, I would die to just be able to go watch them now, but I deleted everything because and I'll get more into it, but kids were mean to me because of it. Yeah. And I got really insecure, and I just the straw that really broke the camel's back was because kids would like play it at school when I'd like walk in the classroom, and like they weren't just like pointing fingers at me, but they would kind of like, oh, she's coming in, like they'd kind of like tease me about like, oh, do you think you're famous, stuff like that, because I had like 100 subscribers, and I was proud of it, but it was like people were kind of like, oh, putting me down, and they were like, and now I know that people just do that out of jealousy, but at the time I didn't know that.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm already so insecure. I'm an 8th grade girl who doesn't know anything about myself or life or whatever. I just knew I liked doing this thing. And then one day there was like these 3 girls who, one of them had like a YouTube channel, and they uploaded a YouTube video, and it was clearly just like a very sarcastic video, like
making fun of you.
And they could have just been making fun of YouTubers in general. They were just doing like a Q&A, like ask us stuff, and then they'd all just start cracking up. But it was, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I had multiple people were sending it to me thinking it was about me. That was enough for me to be like, oh my God, my worst fear has come true. There's like 3 girls at a sleepover just like sitting around just laughing at me. And that at the time.
Mean Girls. It's like the movie.
Yes, completely.
Just straight out
completely.
of the movie.
And that was the thing for me where I was like, I'm done. And I went to my phone and I just deleted everything, changed my like profile picture to where like it wasn't even a YouTube channel anymore. It was just like a person with an account, basically, where I would, I had like liked videos, but I didn't know you could like private things or save them somewhere else but delete them from YouTube. I was just in such like a, once I found out
you were
these
upset.
girls are making fun of me, it was like a I was blinded. I was just like, whatever I need to do right now to get rid of this so that I can just move on and forget, that's what I'm going to do. Because, yeah, like I said, the thought of, like, people hanging out, looking up my YouTube videos and, like, laughing behind my back was just so terrifying at the time that I didn't care what I was losing. All I cared about was getting away and out of that and, like, okay, I'll just pretend like it's not a thing.
I get that.
And
that sucks. I'm sorry, Steve. That's terrible.
It was really sad. And like I said, to this day, I wish I could have kept, even if it was just those 2 videos of me and my dad, I would die to have those videos.
What, how long did you do this for? How long did you do that for?
Not really that long. I would say I started probably 6 months, but I posted every single week. So, I mean.
So back to what we would do now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do think that, well, one, I think when we first started and I mentioned how I was very self-conscious after
we talked
the
about
first
that.
episode, and I felt
that some,
yes. And when people were telling me, "Oh my gosh, I listen to your podcast," and I didn't want to know that, it took me back to the place of like, oh, I forgot this feeling of like people can sit there and watch me, and I'm not around to like defend something I said, or if they take it like once it's out there, it's out there. Basically.
Yeah, for sure.
And I kind of forgot how that feeling was, and why it felt so vulnerable when we first started the podcast. And I was kind of like, I don't know about this. It just because of my experience with YouTube. And I will say the feedback this time around is much more positive. And it's kind of like, it's cheesy to say, but doing this experience has kind of like healed that little girl in me that wanted to do something like this, but was too scared because of what other people were saying. Now I can be like, at this point, screw it. What people say is what they say.
Yeah.
And now I get to do something that makes me feel creative, that makes me happy, that makes me feel like I'm bringing joy to others. Kind of like my YouTube channel, but it's different. It's just like the amped up version. It's a new way of doing it. And it's helped me. It's helped me with that a lot. I feel like I've gotten to help that little girl that was sad that she couldn't have a YouTube channel anymore through this podcast. As cheesy as that is.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad.
No, don't be sad. It's a happy thing. And I couldn't do it without you, so thank you.
Well, thank you for asking me to do it.
Of course.
Like this is, we worked with each other for a long time, and I, miss not seeing you every day, but this at least I get to see you once a week or whatever to have fun.
And catch up and
can talk and everything else. So
exactly.
So what with the YouTube channel, what did you like the most and what did you besides the kids not making fun of you?
Yeah.
What did you like the most and what did you dislike the most?
Honestly, like it's kind of the same answer for both, but the editing process, I did put a lot of work into it, and my phone I remember thinking like, I'm going to have to get like another like phone to just use for recording, because I would have all these clips and I'd want to edit them and put sound effects in, and I'd want to like zoom in on parts, and I'd want to do this, and so I'd have to like cut here. Okay, and I'd be like writing down like, okay, at 1.260 seconds, like I need to cut here, and I want to put this sound effect in here, but I want it to stop by this second, so it, and iMovie's not the most user friendly. Like you can't do everything on iMovie. It's fine, but it's like
I've never used iMovie.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't know any other editing software.
They're all a pain.
Sure,
I've
exactly.
used several different ones.
So, and I think like towards the end, even like before kids started really making fun of me, I remember like I had like a couple weeks off because I started 8th grade, and I just remember thinking like, I don't have time. I was in dance, and I just the weekend would come, and I think I posted on like Wednesdays, and I got to a point where I was like, I can't edit this week. I don't have the time, or I just was kind of like lacking motivation some days. So the editing process was probably the hardest part of it. Filming was easy. I have a podcast, for goodness sake. I can talk. That was never a problem.
Yeah.
I can
So
I can come up with something to do.
Yeah.
the creativity was always there, but it was the like, oh, now I have to sit here and watch myself and listen to myself and figure
which I
out
know
how
you
to make
already
this.
don't like listening to yourself, so I'm sure that was fun for you.
And figuring out how can I make this entertaining? How can I make it funnier? But then my favorite part was always that final product because I was pretty much always happy with my videos, which is so sad that I deleted them all. But
so I going back to the listening to yourself and seeing yourself.
Yeah.
This is episode 6.
Yeah.
How much of these have you listened to?
I can confidently say less than 5 minutes combined. I tried. Okay, episode 2. I take that back.
Oh, that was the Super Bowl one. Yeah.
Yes, and it was right before we had my dad on, and we were talking about stand up that episode. And I remember thinking like I felt pretty confident about that episode when
you were talking about it when
we were recording and like when I left. Like I felt good about it being out there. And I think I was like cleaning my house, just doing stuff around the house, and I had it on maybe like 30 minutes. But I like my speaker was in my bedroom and I was purposefully like going into my living room, going into my bath, like trying to get away from the speaker, and I wasn't turning it up. Like I was kind of like, oh, I don't
try to get away from it.
Yeah, let me turn it down a little. I don't really want to hear it. But I had it on just to like see. But I think that was the last one I listened to.
Okay.
What about you?
I haven't listened to a lot of them, but it's not out of a problem of listening to my voice because I don't really like. It's different to hear my voice, but it's not like it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Because I do have to kind of when I upload them, there's channel markers or chapter markers, so like people can, if they want to jump to one thing, I kind of put like descriptions on what's in each thing. So I do have to kind of listen through it and scrub through it to get that. So it doesn't really bother me. I don't think it doesn't sound anything like what I thought I sounded like, which is interesting, but, it doesn't bother me to hear it, but I haven't really listened to it either.
Right. Well, there's also a part.
I was here for it. So
exactly. I was just about to say that. There's a part of me that's like, it doesn't seem, it's not entertaining. I know what happens, you know?
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
But, I love doing this. I will say something I didn't really expect. Obviously, I expected a few people to like reach out and say, "Oh, I listened. It's so good." Like my grandma, she's my biggest fan.
Yeah.
Same with my dad. Like they're both just every week they're like, "Love the podcast."
My dad took. I think I mentioned this. My dad took like 3 weeks to listen to the first one.
He did tell me that, yeah.
Because he said that it was weird to hear me he called it the radio because he's old.
I mean, maybe he listens to it on his radio.
No, he doesn't.
Okay,
he doesn't. He listens to it on his phone. I had to tell him how to find it and teach him like how to find it. He's not the best with technology, which makes sense. He was born in the 60s, but it's just. He said that it took him a while to listen to it because it was weird to hear me like on the radio or something like that is what he said.
Yeah.
Now my uncle listened to it and he said that it didn't even sound like me and he wouldn't have known it was me unless I had told him that I started a podcast. But I've had family reach out and then I've had there's several people that I know of at a couple people at work that listen to it every week and enjoy listening to it and have told me that they want to get involved, which Nikki was on with us. And she told us that, half the time we get a text from her a few days later and she's like, here's my thoughts on this. I want this.
Well, I love that actually. I love getting texts that are like what my aunt, the episode with my dad, I think because it was kind of like a quiz game with the music, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I want to play. And I had one of my aunts actually texted me and my dad in a group chat with all her answers. And I love that. I'm like, yes, fun. Let's get everyone involved. It's a podcast about friendship. Yeah. All of our friends should be involved. I love it. I will say at work, so on the first episode, I think I kind of talked about how like starting my new job was a little weird because like no one really talks to each other all day long the way that like we did when we worked together. And this is gonna be weird if whatever, I don't care. So he's just one of the other desks out in like kind of the hallway where I'm located.
Okay.
And he was like, I listened to that episode and like I just wanted you to know I felt the same way when I started. So I think, and I felt like my heart was warmed. I was like, oh, he's relating to like something I said on the podcast, and like maybe I made him feel better by saying that too. That he didn't feel alone in that either. So that was a cool moment, and stuff like that has happened. I can't think of another specific example at the moment, but I know that I've had a couple people say like, oh, I feel that way too when someone says that or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I've had several people react to it and enjoy the conversation. I've also had several people tell me when they listen to it, they can't believe that it goes by as fast as, which I mean, just when we record these, it seems like it goes by for really super quick too.
Correct.
It is amazing how time flies when you're having fun.
Great way to waste time is like
we waste a ton of time.
I love it though.
But
it's great.
We have fun. That's all that matters.
For sure.
So going back, let's go back to the YouTube thing, because I know you want to put this on YouTube.
I think one day. I think that I want
not the same type thing. You want to put like our thing on YouTube.
I think that I know it's a podcast, and like this, I don't know. Some people are indifferent about this because they're like, I don't want to watch my podcast. It's for listening.
Yeah.
But I personally, if it's an option, I do typically, I mean, it just depends what I'm doing, but I do like to watch some podcasts because I like people's mannerisms. I like when people talk with their hands. I like when they're animated. And sometimes I just like to watch the videos. I think it's fun. But I think that if we have like a really funny, let's say we say something that happens and it's really funny and it's just a good moment, I would love to have like a video of that. And if we start laughing and see that, I just think that would be like a cool clip. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, that makes sense. But
I think I liked the idea of it, but it's also, that would be another thing to worry about, another thing to possibly edit. I don't know. So
yeah,
it's not a necessity by any means. But
yeah,
I like the idea of maybe recording us one day too.
So when you did your podcast,
my podcast or my
sorry, not podcast, YouTube page. Yes. YouTube.
Yes. Ask me all the questions. I have all the answers.
I don't know how many questions I actually have about this. What were some of the topics that you did? Like what was a fun? I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but is there one that like sticks out that you remember that was like really big besides the ones with your dad that you kind of mentioned? But
I actually used to. It's kind of cringy, but it's cute, I think. But I used to. I would make like every now and then, if I either was like really busy and I ran out of something to talk about, I would just post like bloopers. And some of them I would only have like 2 minutes worth of bloopers. I was like, okay, I'm gonna fake some bloopers, and that's pretty cringy.
Oh, faking bloopers. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yikes.
So how long were these videos? Because if you say 2 minutes of bloopers, why couldn't you just put out 2 minutes? Like that's what it is. Okay,
because
here's 2 minutes of bloopers.
I think my blooper videos, especially, I wanted to be like a 4 to 5. My videos were like 5 to 10 minutes. I'd say.
So they weren't.
No, they weren't super long, but they weren't a minute, And I think I just I liked the idea of like, oh, it's just another video this week, but it's bloopers, not like, oh, it's a short clip this week because she was lazy or whatever. I don't know. I liked the thought of having longer blooper videos, and I mean, I did have a lot of bloopers. Like that's why I started it, because I was like, I have a lot of funny stuff that I like mess up or I get angry, and it's like kind of funny to watch back. It
is kind of funny to see you be angry and like
like I'd get mad at myself. I'd sit there and be like, God, stop messing this thing up.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed posting those, and I don't know, I wanted to have them be longer, I guess. I will say one of my favorite bloopers was my dad and I were recording, and I freaking should have kept this video. It was when we were recording one of our videos, and the doorbell rang. And I'm sitting there looking at him, and he's like, what? I'm like, go get it. It's the doorbell. And he's like, no, we're filming a video. And I don't know why we both just started cracking up in that moment, because I was like, this isn't real. Like, this isn't live. Go get the door. Like, who's at our door? And he was just like, I would rather stay here and not go get the door. And I don't know. But I got that on video. Like, you hear the doorbell being rung. We're both like, what are you going to do?
Okay. And you said you had like 100 subscribers or 100 followers? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how many followers we actually have on. I haven't looked at our metrics on this.
Yeah, and one time when I hit 100 subscribers, I made a video about
100 subscribers.
So I was so excited. I thought that was a cool deal, and like my friends were texting me like, congratulations. And then the next day at school, I was in a class, and one of my guy friends that typically would kind of tease me about my YouTube channel, like they called my name down to the office for something, and he goes, do you think they're congratulating you for your 100 subscribers? I was like, probably not, if I had to guess.
That's pretty good. That's
I know that one. I was never mad about that one. I was like, that's a good joke.
Good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like that one. That one's pretty good. Okay. So was there any other, when you started it, I'm sure you didn't foresee the issues that you ended up having. Was there any other points where you wanted to quit that you thought about it and didn't?
I mean, I was so insecure.
Well, yeah,
so,
I get that.
so long. I still kind of am.
A lot of people in general are, and a lot of girls are too, especially with the social media and stuff like that. And YouTube is another form of that. But
exactly. Well, because I think at first it was like me and my friend both wanted to do this thing, and summer was coming up within weeks, like summer break. So I didn't have to face kids at school.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Several months, yeah, a couple
like
months.
Really getting going. My YouTube channel, getting that going, I didn't have to go to school and see people like make fun of me or whatever. But I did dance at my competitive dance studio with my dance team. And at this time, I was kind of like a late bloomer when it came to dance in terms of like getting really close with the team, because I didn't start competing until I was in 7th grade, and everyone that is on the team starts when they're like 5.
Okay.
So I was kind of like new to that world, and because I was getting to a point where like YouTube, I wanted to be proud of it, but then like someone brought it up at dance, and I was kind of like, ooh, I'm already this awkward girl, and now I'm like the awkward weird girl with the YouTube channel, like that. I didn't want to necessarily quit because of that, but I remember thinking like, I don't want people at dance to know I have a YouTube channel. I don't know why. I was insecure. I was so insecure.
Now, have you thought any of that with this? Like, have you not told people because you're like, I don't want them to know that I have a podcast?
I mean,
because I tell everybody, go listen to this podcast. Hey, it's great. I don't know if it's actually great. I don't know if you're actually going to like it. I don't really care if you actually listen to it, but I'm going to tell you to go listen to it because that's what you need to do.
No, I haven't been as good about it as you probably have. Nikki's been better about it than me. She, like, if someone...
I think Nikki's better at than both of us.
I mean, and I feel that, though. It's way easier for me to brag on my friend than brag on myself. That's just
true.
How
it feels a little weird bragging on yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of how it feels. Like, I'm not trying to be... I know I need to promote it, and I try to when I think about it, but it's weird. It's a little weird for me still. I know we had someone... I think... We talked about this last week, but I'll just reference it. Someone came in to the office where Nikki and I work at, and never met this guy. And he's like kind of like, honestly, I don't really know who he was, but everyone knew him. Like he was a well-known guy, and I was kind of intimidated. And Nikki freaking tells him to listen to my podcast. And I was like, Nikki,
that's awesome.
But I didn't want to tell this man that I just met, that is like clearly a very important person.
But that's how we get somewhere other. Maybe he listens to it and tells somebody else. That's how it works, Steve. That's how it works.
Thank you. I know. I just, in that moment, Nikki, I saw her make eye contact with me, and she goes, well, Stevie, actually, and I was like, don't you dare bring this up right now. And because there was like 5 people standing around who I've never talked to about my podcast, and then it just becomes this whole conversation of like, oh, we didn't know you had a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about it right now. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to. It wasn't the environment to talk about it.
I think any environment's the environment to talk about it.
Well,
it's fun.
I'm glad one of us thinks that way, because I'll get better at it, I think.
Oh yeah, I think you will.
It's I don't know. It's probably a lot of from my YouTube trauma, but I'm like scared that people are going to be like, "Why do you have a podcast? What makes you so special that you think
we're not special.
You want people to hear you and what you have to say." And that's the thing. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't make it for that reason.
Yeah.
We started it because of our friendship."
Yeah.
And that's
I didn't think anybody was going to listen to it either.
Kind of wish they wouldn't.
Don't quit listening. Please don't quit listening for that.
Keep listening.
Yes, please keep listening. We're gonna applause for everybody who's listening. Thank you.
That one's for y'all.
Yes. I don't have a problem promoting it. Like, I know it's weird.
Yeah.
A little bit, because I don't know very many people I know a lot of people who have told me that they want to start one or whatever, but I don't know very many people that actually have a podcast.
Right.
So yeah, I
I guess I just, and this is probably just like a generational thing, but I see a lot of like people who were like, maybe they had like their 5 minutes of fame on like TikTok or a reality show or something, and like their go-to is like start a podcast and talk about it. And so I don't want the impression to be like, oh, I'm just like starving for all this attention.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not, and that's probably all in my head, but I think that kind of plays into it.
I mean, I'm sure there's people that are going to think that.
Yeah.
That we're trying to get attention.
Yeah.
But I don't really care, I guess. Yeah, that's just me. I just don't care. But, you know, everybody's different. So,
Yeah.
and I get that I don't have the anxiety issue. The anxiety issues.
True.
That's not. I don't.
No,
like that, but
no worries.
I don't have the anxiety that you do. So
Correct.
it doesn't. And that's. I was a little more nervous about what people thought and stuff when I was younger, and I've grown out of that more and more as I've gotten older. But you know, it's just. I don't know. It is what it is. I enjoy it. I have fun doing it. That's all I care about.
Right.
I get to talk to my friend. So,
exactly.
show about friends.
Show about friendship.
Podcast about friendship. Okay, folks. I think that's. Hopefully, you enjoy being part of this too. You know, go follow us on Instagram at insufficient_friends. Comment on this. Follow us. You know, I hope you guys enjoy this too because we enjoy having you guys. And I think that's going to be about it for us this week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, friends.